during Obama's first term, I was part of his campaign. I called Florida. I would plead my case to people about why I loved Obama and why I thought he was going to make a great president. And then in his term, I realized that there was no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, that Obama did the same thing Bush did the same thing Clinton did. It was really an agenda that was being passed and driven, striving towards, and Obama was no different. And that's when I really started to investigate everything that I was being told. I realized that the news was no longer true investigative journalism, that it was a bought for company that had an agenda and it was passing its agenda on in its stories, that it was not true investigative journalism, that it had always had a side and the side was being striven towards. And and one of the things that really grabbed me was the fluoride story. And when I looked at fluoride, I didn't really pay much attention to it at the time, like it was being voted on and passed and it was being pushed all across the country. But then, of course, now I am very less trusting of the media, of what's told, of my officials, and I started to do my own investigation on fluoride. And I learned that, the study was really implemented immediately after the Paperclip Project, immediately after World War II, and learning that the Nazis poisoned and put poison in their water, and then we took their scientists and brought them over here, and then they all of a sudden had this big drive to put fluoride in the water on the back of a study or an observation of kids that were sickly and dying and had brown teeth, but they didn't have cavities. And they were sitting there saying, wow, this is amazing. These kids are sick and they're dying and they got brown teeth, but they don't have any cavities. Well, maybe, and then they did this study that it was like, oh, it's this fluoride. The fluoride's in the water and it makes them not have cavities. And then there was this big study to see about how much fluoride you can put in the water and not kill the person, but still make them not have cavities. And I mean, that's not a joke. It was literally about how much can we put in and have a benefit of not killing, or of not having cavities, but not killing the person. Well, maybe it was because the children didn't have candy and didn't have sugar and didn't have the money to buy sugar because they were poor. And that's probably why they didn't have cavities. So, they sat there and strived and pushed to put fluoride in the water, and they brought it to a vote in the 60s. And San Antonio said, take your fluoride and shove it. And then, one generation, 2 generations later, they brought it to a vote again. And San Antonio said, take your fluoride and shove it. And then all of a sudden we get this mayor that has an epiphany that says, hey, our city's big enough now, he says. Maybe the time is right now, and we should, get fluoride in the water to help our citizens. And not with a big campaign from the citizens of San Antonio, not with any big striving or pushing from dentists and doctors. No, it was just a city official saying, hey, let's put fluoride in the water now. And I guarantee you that was basically on the back end receiving millions of dollars. And I would bet my bottom dollar that it was just doing what he was told. There was no striving for having fluoride put in the water from the citizens, from the people. There was no petition drive. There was no pushing. It was one city official put it on the ballot. And I started to ask myself, well, what was different this time? What was different about this vote? Why did it pass, but 2 other times people said, no, we don't want you to put poison in our water? Well, it was electronic voting. I believe that it was the electronic voting machines and they were able to rig the machines. We know those machines are rigged now. It is without a doubt, we know that these voting machines are being rigged. There's no way to have verifiable voting. And that was the only difference. It was that there was voting machines that could be rigged, and then strangely it passes. So I'm telling you that, we have to question everything. We cannot sit there and say that these people have our best interests in mind. Promoting a nanny state, promoting dependency on government, promoting disability and food stamps. And, back in the day, America, if you wanted to have a business, you put up a shingle and you're in business. Now it's this signing and passing hoops and paying people off, and it's totally counter to free market, liberty, innovation, freedom. We're in the fight for our lives here. This is no joke. If you look at what is being pumped out of the media, is what's being pumped out of the talk shows, and about having Trump be this big evil man that is promoting ISIS, and this ISIS attacks are solely responsible for Trump. Last I looked, Obama's the one that's been in office for the last 8 years. Last I looked, it was Obama that has had these attacks coming. Last I looked, it was Obama that was promoting and dropping weapons into Syria and these places. And so I don't see it that Trump is, this big responsible. It doesn't even make logical sense that Trump could possibly be responsible. Like, he's this big arch guy that has the ability to go out there and rally the ISIS people and give them weapons and go out there and shoot up America. That's ridiculous. The last person who's been, what happened to the buck stops here? The buck stops here. Ever since Obama's been in office, it's always someone else. It's not my fault. It's Bush. It's Trump. It's not my fault. It's Clinton. You got to wake up, America. You got to tell yourself, you know what? There's going to be a day you're going to be sucking on the tit of the government, and they're going to cut you off. And you know what? What are you going to do then? We have to wake up and strive, fight for our freedoms, fight for our liberties, fight for our freedom of speech, because it's being attacked. It's no joke.